The Haunted Locker Room. In the small town of Elmsfield, the local high school was known for more than just its academic and athletic achievements. It was known for the old, decrepit locker room hidden beneath the school gym. Legend had it that decades ago, a student named Sarah had mysteriously vanished from that very locker room. Her body was never found, but eerie tales of her ghost persisted. One chilly autumn evening, a group of friends, Jake, Emma, Lucas, and Mia, decided to explore the haunted locker room after hearing the stories. Armed with flashlights and their smartphones, they sneaked into the gym after hours and made their way down to the basement. The air grew colder as they descended the creaky wooden stairs. The locker room was dimly lit, with flickering lights casting ominous shadows on the peeling walls. Lockers stood like silent sentinels, some ajar, others tightly shut. As they ventured deeper, they heard faint whispers and the sound of footsteps echoing off the walls. Emma's flashlight flickered and then went out. "This isn't funny, guys," she whispered, her voice trembling. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them. Panic set in as they tried to pry it open, but it wouldn't budge. Lucas checked his phone, but there was no signal. They were trapped. "Let's stick together," Jake suggested, trying to stay calm. "Maybe there's another way out." They cautiously moved through the labyrinth of lockers, their nerves frayed by every creak and rustle. In the far corner of the room, they found an old, dusty mirror. Written in the grime was a message, "Help me." Mia screamed as she felt a cold hand brush her shoulder. She turned, but no one was there. The whispers grew louder, and they could now hear faint sobbing. The group huddled together, their fear palpable. Out of nowhere, a locker door creaked open, revealing a hidden passage. Desperate to escape, they hurried inside. The passage led to a narrow staircase winding upwards. As they climbed, the sobbing grew distant, replaced by a cold silence. They finally emerged in an unused part of the school's library. Relieved but shaken, they vowed never to speak of that night again. However, the experience haunted them, and they couldn't shake the feeling that Sarah's spirit had followed them. The Phantom Classmate. Greenwood High School had a long history of strange occurrences, but none more unsettling than the story of the Phantom Classmate. Every few years, students reported seeing a girl who didn't exist in the school's records. She was always dressed in an old-fashioned uniform and seemed out of place. Sophomore year was in full swing when Jessica and her friends noticed the girl. She sat at the back of their history class, never speaking, always staring at the chalkboard with a vacant expression. Jessica assumed she was new and shy, but when she asked the teacher, Mr. Harris, about her, he looked puzzled. "There's no new student in this class," he said, scanning the room. Jessica pointed to the empty chair where the girl had been sitting. She was right there. Mr. Harris frowned. "Jessica, that seat has been empty all year." Determined to uncover the truth, Jessica started asking around. To her surprise, other students had seen the girl too, but only briefly. They described the same pale face, long dark hair, and old-fashioned uniform. One evening, Jessica stayed late to finish a project. As she walked past the history classroom, she heard a faint humming. She peeked inside and saw the girl, her back turned, writing on the chalkboard. The temperature dropped, and Jessica's breath fogged in the air. Summoning her courage, Jessica stepped inside. "Who are you?" she asked. The girl stopped humming and slowly turned around. Her eyes were hollow, and her expression was sorrowful. "I need help," she whispered. Jessica's heart raced. "How can I help you?" "Find my diary," the girl said. "It's hidden in the library." Jessica spent the next week searching the library, combing through old books and dusty shelves. Finally, she found it, a small, leather-bound diary tucked behind a row of forgotten textbooks. The diary belonged to Emily, a student who had died tragically in a fire that destroyed part of the school 50 years ago. Her spirit had been trapped, unable to move on because her story had been forgotten. Jessica shared her discovery with the school, and a memorial was set up to honor Emily's memory. From that day on, the sightings of the Phantom Classmate ceased, and Greenwood High School felt a little lighter, the ghostly presence finally at peace. The Midnight Detention. Ravenwood High had a reputation for strict discipline, and the worst punishment of all was the dreaded midnight detention. students who misbehaved severely were sentenced to spend the night in the school's old auditorium, a place rumored to be haunted. Sam, a rebellious junior, found himself facing this very punishment after a series of pranks. He didn't believe in ghosts, but the eerie stories about the auditorium made him uneasy. The night of his detention, he arrived at the school at 11:45 p.m., the halls eerily silent. The janitor let him in and locked the door behind him. "Good luck," he said with a knowing look. Sam made his way to the auditorium, his footsteps echoing in the empty hallways. He settled into a seat, pulling out his phone to pass the time. At midnight, the lights dimmed, and the temperature dropped. A soft whispering filled the air, and Sam felt a chill run down his spine. He looked around but saw nothing. Suddenly, the stage lights flickered on, revealing a figure in old-fashioned clothes. It was a teacher, but not one Sam recognized. "Welcome to detention," the figure said, its voice echoing unnaturally. "You must atone for your misdeeds." Sam's bravado faded as he realized this was no ordinary punishment. The ghostly teacher began to recount the history of Ravenwood, describing a fire that had killed several students and a teacher decades ago. The auditorium had been their favorite place, and their spirits lingered, seeking justice for their untimely deaths. The whispering grew louder, and Sam saw shadowy figures moving in the dark corners of the room. Panic set in as he tried to leave, but the doors wouldn't budge. The ghostly teacher continued, "You must understand the consequences of your actions." Hours felt like minutes as Sam was subjected to visions of the past, seeing the students who had died and feeling their pain. When the clock struck 6 a.m., the doors finally unlocked, and the apparitions vanished. Sam stumbled out of the auditorium, his face pale and his hands trembling. The janitor was waiting. "Learn your lesson?" he asked. Sam nodded, too shaken to speak. From that day on, he was a changed person, his rebellious streak extinguished by the horrors he had witnessed during the midnight detention. The Forgotten Yearbook. At Northside High, there was a peculiar tradition. Every year, the senior class would create a yearbook, but one year, the yearbook from 1978 went missing and was never found. Since then, strange things happened whenever anyone tried to take pictures for the new yearbook. Claire, the editor of the yearbook committee, was determined to break the curse. She spent hours in the school archives, searching for clues about the missing yearbook. One afternoon, she found an old photograph tucked inside a library book. It showed the senior class of 1978, but one student's face was scratched out. That night, Claire had a dream about the student whose face was missing. In the dream, the student, named Daniel, told her that he had been erased from the yearbook because of a terrible accident that had claimed his life just before graduation. His spirit couldn't rest because he had been forgotten. The next day, Claire gathered her friends, and they decided to hold a séance in the school gym to contact Daniel's spirit. They lit candles and formed a circle, calling out to him. At first, nothing happened, but then the temperature dropped, and the candles flickered. A ghostly figure appeared before them, Daniel, looking as he did in the old photograph. "Thank you for remembering me," he said. "I need your help to be at peace." He guided them to an old storage room beneath the gym, where they found the missing yearbook. It was covered in dust and cobwebs, but otherwise intact. Inside, they saw that Daniel's name and picture had been crossed out. Claire promised to restore Daniel's place in the yearbook. She scanned the old photo and digitally repaired it, then added a memorial page in the new yearbook to honor him. From that moment on, the strange occurrences stopped, and the yearbook committee was able to take pictures without any issues. Daniel's spirit was finally at peace, his memory preserved in the pages of the yearbook for future generations to remember.